just a few seconds. It's time for Imelda Law Monday. I'm Buddy Martin. The program's heard Monday through Thursday, and we're going to kick it off with Shane Matthews right now. He's standing by in the orange and blue room. Stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Welcome to the program. Shane Matthews in the orange and blue room. His sponsor, Titan MRI, has got a message for you, and then go to Shane.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff Cardoza. And here's his picture, and here's his name line. And on the line with us is Shane Matthews, the quarterback. Hello, Coach. How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I just got off the phone with your old coach just now. We're talking about you and other things, and the passing of one of his coaches is a guy that many of us knew back in the day. I know it was before your time, but Fred Pankos, who was the offensive coordinator when Steve was playing there, actually he was his first quarterback coach, then offensive coordinator, passed away at age 91. And Coach and I were talking about him over the weekend, and boy, the game has changed since then, Shane. But you know what? He started the whole thing with the passing. It was Fred Pankos' offense that got John Reeves, and that's what got the offense kicking and gave Florida a reputation. So anyway, a little history there, and R.I.P. to the great Fred Pankos. We're not good friends, and sorry to have this passing. Well, how was your weekend? I watched part of your game, and of course, Shane's quarterback coach for the Orlando Guardians. When I turned it off, you guys were leading, and I flipped it over to the golf, and then I flipped it back and forgot to tape it. But Coach Spurrier told me you guys lost a tough one there.
Yeah, we lost 25-23. We played good at times, bad at times. Our head coach wanted to play a bunch of different players since we were out of the playoffs. And, we played multiple quarterbacks, which I'm not a huge fan of at times. But, it is what it is. Got one more game, and we'll see what happens. I'll be home a week from today. That's all I know.
Well, good. And I know it's been interesting. I was talking to Coach Spurrier about you earlier, just to call it before we got on the air, which gave us a little, we were a little late getting started because when Coach wants to talk, you listen. And he was saying, well, I think he wants to get it to a couple wins and come back and regroup and hope everybody gets hired next year. So I know you had all your losses since you've been there, since you've been there calling the plays, have been like 2 and 3 points, haven't they?
Yeah, our last 5 games, we won 1 and lost 4, and they're by a total of like 10 points or something. It's crazy. It's just a lot of turnovers, mistakes here or there, special team, defense giving up a bunch of yards. I mean, it's just we don't have a great roster. I'll be honest. I think we have the worst roster in the league, and it's been a fun experience, and I'm ready to get back to playing golf and doing my normal thing in Gainesville.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you got the reports of the Orange and Blue game. I just came off of one of my all-time sports binges, Shane. Only you could appreciate this. But having been under the weather a little bit the last couple months, now good to go. I went to the Orange Blue game. I went to the tailgate party given by Florida Victorious. Really good people. I got to meet Nate Barbera and the new people, and hung out a little bit with Riley Kugel and some of the people there, and then stayed there for a couple of. I don't tailgate normally speaking, but I went to the tailgate party. Then I went into the stadium early, had the box lunch with all my buds in the media room, the press room, and stayed through the entire game. Edited and wrote a little bit. Got in the car, came over with Chris Spears at 12:15. So I had a long day. Okay.
Yeah.
I field tested pretty good, but here's what I did. Then I proceeded to get up the next day, and I watched over the period of the next 3 days 10 different events. I watched them all, the baseball and the Rays and the Gator baseball and the golf. The golf was terrific. I thought if you watched any of it, and then of course right down to the end on Sunday over the period of 74 hours, I watched over 11 events. So I really gorged myself. I found out what sports washing meant. When the rest of the world sucks, you can just go in there and watch it. I was a spectator and a journalist, and I had a heck of a good time doing it. Shane, you've been known to be a couch potato.
Well, I didn't get to watch any of the golf this week, but I bet it, buddy, I did something I bet you've never done in all your years of covering sports.
Let's see. What would that be? Give me a hint.
Well, it's a sporting event, and it was in Fort Worth, Texas.
All right.
I went to the Lady Gator gymnastics meet.
Well, I saw a picture of you there because Dan Bond took a picture of you. Said, look who I found.
Yeah, so it was that was pretty cool. That might be the nicest arena for like a basketball sized arena that I've ever been in my life.
Dickey's Arena there in Fort Worth.
Oh, it is unbelievable. The decor, just everything, how nice it is. I was blown away.
Well, I watched it. And what a show they put on. That's to end up losing, for those who didn't hear, it was over 2 days. They had to qualify first, which they really did on Thursday. One of 4 teams in Utah, LSU, and Oklahoma. And they got down to the final events. And Trinity Thomas, who's really one of the most, she needs to be in the Hall of Fame if she's not, and comes out after injury and may not be able to run, whatever, pulls off a 10 at the end. And she was fantastic. And they lost, but I think they lost by about maybe 25th of a point or something to Oklahoma again. And you were there, huh?
Well, I was there on the qualifying day. We had a game in San Antonio on that Saturday. I went on a Thursday because I was done with practice. So I went over there to support the Lady Gators, and it was a cool event. I've been to baseball, softball, basketball, and football, and now gymnastics national championship stuff. So I don't know if there's anything else I need to go to. I mean, track, I guess, but those things take forever. But yeah, it was gosh, they performed as well as they could on Saturday. Now Thursday and performed very well, but they advanced.
No, but good enough to get in. And it was they're amazing athletes. I'll tell you what they do is I get so nervous they get up on that beam.
Well, buddy, here's the thing. People don't realize this, but the last apparatus or whatever we did the vault on Thursday. We had to score very high to advance, or we weren't going to advance because we didn't perform very well. Okay, so they get like 5 minutes to warm up. Is it Sloan Blakely?
Sloan Blakely, yeah.
Okay, who's outstanding. And Trinity Thomas, when they went on their practice vault, they fell flat on their back and their head snapped and hit the mat.
Wow.
And I was so nervous for when they actually got into true competition, and they both did phenomenal. But people don't know that. They actually fell on their backs.
Wow. That's Dan Bond's on the other line, but you can't hear him because he's in on the computer. I would put him up and you guys could swap a few notes from all that. That was an amazing event. It was exciting and right to the end. And boy, I tell you, how close can you come? Coach Rowland must be really heartbroken. But you know what? I think they personify. You do what you can as best as you can, and you hope for the best. And that's what they did. And they just came up a little bit short. If they hadn't all those Russian judges, they might have won. Russia being from Oklahoma. That's what we're saying anyway. So, hey, did you get a chance to watch a baseball game at all?
No, I didn't see anything.
It was it was a remarkable moment. I won't take all your time up talking about this right now, but I just wanted to say that the baseball game, losing to Georgia and hitting 2 grand slams, and then Georgia beat you on a grand slam Friday night was painful. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. And the Gators bounced back, and they wound up winning the Saturday game. And on Sunday, they're having a hard time putting their bullpens getting knocked around. They finally pulled. They had like 6-3, 6-4, whatever, and they finally got their ace reliever in at the end. Let's get Neely, and he comes in with Bateman on base and strikes out the batter, and in the 8th, and the umpire throws him out of the game. Because
Flexer said something and got thrown out.
He looked over at the dugout, and here's a guy who got knocked around this last outing. He was excited that he pitched and struck the guy out. He wasn't taunting. I mean, please, to throw a guy, and he didn't do it in front of he didn't even leave the heart of the mound. He didn't go in front of the dugout and do it. He just stomped his foot and cheered and looked over there and looked back, and it wasn't 2 seconds. And the umpire threw him out of the game. Now, that could have cost Florida the game, except for one thing. Jack Caglione came in and hit another home run, his second home run of the day, got ahead. And when he came to the plate around the bases, did you see the video? Made it on ESPN. He walked like a robot all the way through the team. So I wasn't going to cheer. So I'm not in favor of showing up umpires. I thought that was a Bush League call. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. All right, talk to me about what you have heard, if anything, on the orange and blue game. There wasn't a whole lot of separation with the quarterbacks. They didn't distinguish themselves. In fairness, they didn't have a complete install. I think they said they installed the offense overnight practically. I kept looking for that moment. There were a couple of good throws, not many. Neither quarterback looked that good. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to make a judgment call because it's too hard. But now people are saying the defense looked real good, and they were pressing more. They even had a few blitz packages, but they don't normally let them do that much on the orange and blue game. But they came away with, and I was looking for something to hang my hat on the quarterbacks. I didn't see it, Shane, and maybe I'm just not as good a judge of talent. But I guess overall they were pleased. Billy was pleased. He was pleased with the 25 new guys and the new infusion of spirit. The defense looked like they were, I will say the new defensive coordinator has got some energy. And he certainly showed it, and I think it showed in the defense. What have you heard? Does that match up what you heard or on your show when you talk about it? Tomorrow? Wednesday?
I mean, I know people worry about the quarterback. The quarterbacks are going to be fine. Look, it's one of those deals where if the game had been 35-30, buddy, people have been bitching and complaining about the defense again. So give the defense a little bit of credit. I didn't see one play, but I'm not worried about it. I did speak to someone who watched the tape, and he says, people complain about this, complain about that, but the quarterback play wasn't as bad as you like if you sat in the stands and watched it. So I actually believe spring games are worthless in the last 10 or 12 years. They're a waste of time. I think people will try to take too much out of it. So I wouldn't even worry about it if I was a fan.
All right. I took your word for it. I'm not too worried about it. And to be honest with you, I didn't expect too much, but I just always look for a wrinkle. And I got to say this, and you're going to hate it when I say it, I know. When you watch Anthony Richardson make the plays he has made, you look at them and try to comparison. There's no comparison. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, that's true.
I know.
But think about this. Anthony played real well in the spring game last year, and he played okay in the regular season. So it doesn't translate.
Yeah, I
Look,
get it. Yeah.
Nobody that you're going to watch is going to make the type of plays that he made. But what they are going to do is probably be more consistent on a consistent basis and making the average play, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I understand that. And Anthony did come out and make a statement. I just read it. He said, I get what people are saying about me, that I'm not accurate. I'm working on that. But you said all along, and you're right, and his measurables are going to make people just flip out, and they have, which is why he's a top 10 pick, and who knows how high he'll go in that. But anyway, it's ironic you're talking about a quarterback getting picked so high, and yet the record didn't reflect that. And I understand why, because it wasn't a fit, and Anthony wasn't ready. He should have stayed another year. But why would he after they get that? You get the kind of money that he'll never have to work again a day in his life, and probably his grandkids will. So I don't blame him for that at all. But I'm just saying.
And he's going to be a very high pick. I hope it works out for him. But like I said, buddy, people talk about whether he came back for another year. None of it ever translated, and it didn't translate at the level before college. So I hope it works out for him. I just don't know, because he's getting ready to play against the best players in the world.
Yeah,
and it is difficult. So we shall see.
I'm gonna let you go early tonight. I know you're tired, and you got to do a show tomorrow. I miss you, buddy. I wish you come on back.
I'm off on Tuesdays, buddy.
I know you are. Well, anyway, any final thoughts before I let you go?
No, just softball took 2 out of 3 against Georgia, who was ranked like 6th or 7th in America.
Lost the last one, yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's that time of the year, and baseball is going to get more difficult. Don't we have to Vanderbilt, South Carolina?
Yeah, it's a big one's coming up here, but and they got to get their bullshit straightened out, and that's the thing. But boy, I tell you, they got some bats. Man, they got the power, unbelievable. So I enjoyed watching them. Well, come on back here. We need you back, and be careful. Good luck on Sunday, and don't eat too much of that Tex-Mex, okay?
That's right, buddy. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, the great Sam Matthews. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. We're going to jump in here real fast and hear from our sponsor at Meldon Law, and then we're going to jump in here and get. We may just get Dan Bond on for a second here, real quick, because we're going to be jammed up later. Allie Peak is sitting by, and I want to make sure we get her in here. I can't wait to hear Allie. She had a really good podcast over the weekend talking about the 5-star safety. People are really excited about that. Let's hear from Jeffrey Meldon. Then let's get Dan in for a quickie and bring him Allie in. I stand by. Here's our word from Jeffrey Meldon.
Jeffrey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm joining the band, of course. Since Meldon Law is the official law firm partner of the Florida Gators, I want to help.
Dad, we're litigators. Let's stick to helping people in the courtroom.
Well, can we still hang out and jam a little bit? At Meldon Law, we won't back down.
All right, thanks very much. Let's go over to Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, actually, real quick. And Alex, stand by. We're going to come to you. Talk to our friend Dan Bond, who did a really good job of covering the gymnastics. I guess you heard Shane say he enjoyed it there, Dan.
Oh, yeah, it's a great event. Like Shane said, it's a great venue for gymnastics, and it's just going to grow and grow with that venue. That's just their they just moved there in 19. Obviously didn't have anything in 2020 because of COVID, but yeah, it's hard to swallow that one. I was there last year, and it really did seem like it was a closer event, but they left it all on the floor. They had their highest vault score of the year, their highest bars routine for the year to finish up those two at the end. But, as Florida was killing it on the bars, Oklahoma was getting 9.9s all the way across on the floor routine, where Florida was getting 9.8s, basically doing the same thing, in my opinion. There were some little bit of feet movement on Oklahoma that wasn't called. Florida had some of the same issues and got those 9.8s. So that's a little frustrating, but Trinity was there. She got the 10. It was great to be there and see her reaction, and see the crowd was really behind her when she came out for introductions. She got the loudest cheer, the whole arena. Every time she got up there to perform, everyone just kind of stopped watching their own teams and was watching her. And everybody wanted to be part of that record-setting 10 event. And there you go. She got the 28. I'm sure she's going to go on and do wonderful things, multiple degrees. From Florida will get you in any door. Maybe she'll do some ESPN work like Bridget Sloan does and Kennedy Baker does. So we'll see what future holds for her. The future's bright for the team. They've got DiCello, Wong, Blakely's coming back. They have another loaded class coming back. You have the injured Morgan Hurd, who didn't compete much this year, but she was in part of the national team, going to be really a factor next year. They've got freshmen coming in to help that vault score, which was their weak spot all year. And who knows? They'll be there next year, and hopefully they'll get it all next year.
You got kind of emotional watching Trinity there, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it was watching her chomp, and almost like tear come to your eye because that's it. Your heart breaks a little bit that she didn't get that title because she was hurt this year. She was hurt in 21 and 2020 COVID. They were rolling that year, so definitely she would have had at least one, maybe two out of those 3 years, in my opinion. So again, like Hall of Fame statue, they've got to have something named after her.
Yeah.
Out there in the O-Dome come next season, I would say. Maybe
I
just
expect you to lead the charge. You had your T-shirt made Trinity for the Hall of Fame, whatever it may be.
Right, yeah. But they started hanging some names in the rafters for them. That she'd be up there number one for sure.
Yeah. Hey, great job covering the event. I appreciate it very much. All right. We're having a little
All right,
Wi-Fi problem. I'll let you go, but thank you so much. We'll talk again soon. All right. Dan
All right,
Bond,
thank you.
our special correspondent. What a great job he did for us and everybody else. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, Dan Bond. Yeah, thank you very much. Let's go out to the Orange Blue Room and see if we can't find. This is somebody we had on recently. Very popular. She's not Dan Bond, and she did a terrific podcast on the recruiting aspects. If you're not watching her, you're missing out. I'll let her tell you about her podcast. Allie Peak Wilbur joins the program. Welcome back, Allie. How you doing?
Good, Betty. How are you doing?
Doing okay. I just told Shane I went on I did my own personal sports washing. I watched 11 events in 4 days, or listened to, starting with the Orange Blue game, the tailgate party, and then I came in to watch golf, baseball, gymnastics, you name it, over the next 4 days. And I really enjoyed myself. I thought I'd be worn out by Sunday, but I wasn't. I was good to go. Well, I haven't binged like that in a long time. A lot of stuff going on, Allie. A lot of stuff going on.
UF is good at a lot of things, so there's a lot of sports to watch. But gymnastics was particularly exciting, and I'm sad for the girls that they came up just short. But what an incredible run, and what an incredible team they are.
They are, and it was just what a bold and courageous performance by particularly all of them, but particularly in Trinity, to be injured and come back like that. It was fabulous.
Goodness. She is just something else. She is incredible. I obviously nobody knew if she was going to make it back from injury, but the 10, my daughters are competitive gymnasts. So we watch a lot of gymnastics in this house, attend a lot of meets. And that's one of the best vaults I've ever seen. And I think something that people don't realize is that Florida's all around score was higher in this meet than it was in any of their 4 national championships, which is incredibly impressive. And they scored NCAA best for UF in 3 out of 4 events. And they did all they could do. They left it all out on the mat. I do question some of Oklahoma's judging that they got there, particularly on beam and vault. But, Florida controlled what they could control and came up just short. But what an incredible performance.
Hang on a second. Now, Oklahoma and Texas, pretty close together there in states, And for 2 years, they had lost by a fraction, these people, and Oklahoma happens to be the benefactor. I'm just saying. I'm not throwing the conspiracy theories, but I'd like to maybe see where those, like Dan said, check their driver's license. Let's see where they're
Oh,
from.
100%. There was definitely a little bit of almost home cooking going on. And
Mm-hmm.
it is also kind of crazy to think that 3 of those 4 teams will be SEC teams in just a year.
Yeah, how about that?
I
Talk
mean, that's
about
where
talk about competitive in
right
the SEC. We talk about football, but man,
gymnastics is going to be something else, especially if you look at who was in the semifinals as well. There's just so much great gymnastics in the SEC, just like, pretty much everything else. That's why it is the everything conference. But
well,
it
yeah.
just,
I asked you about. Sorry, I asked you about this last time, but I want to ask you again. It seems like some of those NIL gymnasts are making a lot of money. They're very
yeah.
popular. The NIL deals are coming in fast for them. Softball seems to be extremely popular. Women's basketball, look at the numbers. Kim Mulkey, look at what they did, the numbers they got. What is going on with women's sports here now?
It's almost leveling the playing field a little bit. It's really neat to see. And, Trinity and the other girls did hugely benefit from NIL, but Florida benefited from them. We went up and toured the gymnastics facility a little bit earlier this year. We met with Miss Lee, who is basically, the godmother of the program. Essentially, she runs all the things. And she told me that they're pretty sure that this year Florida gymnastics is going to break even, which has never happened in the program's history. And those are the kind of things that can happen when these athletes get these NIL deals and they get the public interest, and then people come and fill the stands and the arena sells out. I mean, you've got a program that in the past has cost the university money who may not this year. And truly, you've also got a whole generation of little girls that want to be like Trinity Thomas. I personally got choked up watching my 8-year-olds jumping up and down on the couch watching her get a 10. Like, my 3-year-olds know Trinity Thomas's name. And I know that when I was growing up, I knew all of Florida's football players' names, but I didn't know any of Florida's female athletes' names. And that's different for this younger generation of kids. And I think that that's so cool. And NIL is a part of that.
You know how many times I've heard that from people recently? Just what you said, a lot. Now, my granddaughter, she hasn't called up yet. She's a volleyball player. She's 10. And Brendan hasn't taken her up. He's been busy with all he's doing. But I have no doubt if she saw these athletes, like everybody else's daughter, she would be. It's probably too late for her to be in gymnastics now because they start when they're 4, as you know. But boy, it's a wonderful women's sport, and they have really conducted themselves with class. And not only that, not only is Trinity a 5-star athlete, she's a 5-star person. She's an amazing person, and I am I'm such a Trinity fan. I really am. I don't even know her. No, I'm a fan of hers. Well, let's talk about the other stuff, like the boys' stuff, football. You had a really good podcast about this new 5-star safety. We don't know a lot about him. We're digging into it right now to do a little deep dive on him. But it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. I don't know if it represents Billy being over the hump necessarily, but it's certainly in that direction. And anytime you get a 5-star, and I think 36 ranked player, it does your program a lot of good. Talk about what you talked about on your podcast. I wish I could run your podcast here. And talk about what you said and what you think about it.
Well, we're talking about Xavier Filsaime. He's out of McKinney, Texas. And he picked Florida over Georgia and a whole bunch of other programs. But the fact that Florida beat out Georgia for the number 2 safety in the country is huge. He is a 5-star. He was at the Orange and Blue game. He apparently has a pretty good relationship with DJ Lagway, who I think has honestly been the absolute best recruiter in this class. But I also think this is kind of the Corey Raymond effect. And, Corey Raymond taking over the entire secondary. He has a history of putting players into the league. He can recruit and develop talent. And I really think that Napier putting him in charge of the secondary has been huge for recruiting. I think it's going to be huge on the field eventually as well. But I really think this offseason, this 2023 class is going to hugely benefit from the fact that Raymond is now in control of the entire secondary. And I really think that we're kind of seeing that Napier has a type. He loves 2-star athletes. And Xavier Filsaime is an incredible athlete, plays multiple sports, and this is a huge pickup for the Gators. He's
You said
fast.
2-star, you meant 10 two-sport athletes.
2-sport, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, 2-sport. He's a
5
5
stars, but 2-sport. Listen,
Yep.
I did something where I just screwed up my granddaughter's sport, and I got to correct that. And I said volleyball. She's not a volleyball player. She's a soccer player, and I know that. My bad. Oh, sorry, Brendan. Sorry, Stella. Go ahead.
You corrected it. She's good now, I'm sure. But yeah, Xavier is a track star as well. Really fast, really quick, very athletic, very big vert. This is the type of body that Corey Raymond looks for in guys that he recruits. And this is a huge pickup for Napier. And like you said, I don't know that it means he's over the hump, but it means that Florida's trending in the right direction. First step is to be on the table with the guys that are the big dogs right now, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Clemsons. The next step was to win a head-to-head battle. And, Georgia wanted this guy in a bad way. So I think it's a huge pickup for Napier, and it is showing that Florida recruiting is trending in the right direction.
For sure. Of course, everybody wants the next guy, the next thing. It's always the backup quarterback who's going to be better. That's just how fans think. God bless them. I wrote a kind of I don't want to say critical column, but my column, I made some points that I was trying to pull out the saw that I liked and trying to mention, what the lack of offense was. You couldn't deny the fact, for whatever reason, maybe it was a late install, didn't have that a patchwork offensive line, etc. And I understand all that. But I guess I was looking for a little something. Like, when you watch Anthony Richardson, you look for that great play or that great throw or that great run, whatever. And I didn't see that. And I was a little disappointed I didn't see it, but am I crazy or did you watch for that?
I mean, I don't think that the orange and blue game was anything to write home about. I don't think that there's really a way to sugarcoat that. But I will say, when you listen to the interviews afterwards, you listen to Mertz and Miller, and they were asking about like how much of the playbook was shown. And both of them kind of laughed and said, oh, only day one stuff. So I do think it was kept incredibly vanilla on purpose. And, I do think that Florida's going to have a game manager this year, but I think that's okay. I don't think Florida's not going to have an Anthony Richardson every single year. They're not going to have a world-class athlete as their quarterback every single year, but Florida's offense does have world-class talent. So I think as long as they can get a guy who can manage the game and not make mistakes, Florida will be fine at quarterback. It's not necessarily going to be electric. It's not going to be Heisman campaign worthy, but I think that it can get the job done. It might not be exciting for fans, but as long as they get enough wins, that should be okay. That should be enough.
Well, that's what it has to translate. There's the wins, and we don't know about that. And, you look at that schedule, it's hard to see more than 6 wins. Now, my colleague, Franz Beard, I'm going to bring him here in just a second. He sees more. It's so hard to tell, because they had an infusion of 25 players, new players came in. It's hard to integrate them into a program that fast. If they got another quarterback, that would take a while. You aren't going to go find your quarterback, likely starting quarterback in the portal. Probably not. Or on kind of another, or recruiting, but just too late for that. So there have to be good defense, running game, check, what have you. So we know which way Billy's going, and how it translates. I don't know. Allie, do you see 7, 8 wins?
I think 7 is doable. I think anything over that's probably overachieving for this team. And I think that's okay, right? This is a rebuild. This is a process. I just hope that fans are willing to be patient with Napier. He really does seem like he's moving things in the right direction. He has a vision. And at some point, Florida's going to have to stop getting rid of coaches after 3 years and let them fully, see their plan all the way through. If you make it 5 years and you're not getting the wins, I understand the need for a change, but we can't be so quick to call for somebody's head before they've gotten a normal amount of time, a good amount of time to put in what they want and execute fully their plan. And as far as quarterbacks go, I bet they add somebody to the roster. I don't think it's anybody that takes the starting job, but I think when you got 3 quarterbacks on scholarship only, that's just a recipe for disaster. And, if injuries start to happen. So I could see them taking somebody in the portal or reclassifying Austin Simmons, but that's not somebody that's going to be an impact in 2023. Right. It's just an insurance policy.
Let's see if this guy agrees with you. Franz, say good evening to Allie Peak Wilbur, Franz
Haven't
Beer.
seen you in a while.
It has been a long time. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You look good as always. You always
Aw, thank
did, but and how are the kids?
They're good. They're getting big, 8 and 3. I've got 2 sets of twins, and life
I
is good over
know. That's
here.
what
Yeah.
that's what I know. The
Yeah.
the Bubba Spurrier route, bring them in multiples. I think
Her
Bubba's
problem is
got what?
she has 2 sets, and she has another kid named Wilbur. She has to take
I
care
do.
of.
My husband is actually more of my 5th child. That's true.
Yeah, so she's got
That's
plenty
what
to
you
do
get
there.
when you marry a punter.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
true. That is true. Zook tried to warn me about that, but
Allie, I got to tell you, we love having you on. We hope you'll come back soon. Will you do that?
I absolutely will.
Next time
Thanks,
I'm
guys.
gonna leave more time so we can get you on a little longer. Tell us your life story.
Okay,
Good
sounds
stuff. Tell
good.
folks how to get your podcast.
You can go on YouTube, A Peek Inside Gator Football.
It's good. I check it out every time it's on. And she has good stuff, fresh stuff, not just recruiting, but she's up on that too. So she knows her sports and football. And by the way, look at that picture on to her right. A guy I remember from the 50s who played with me. There, hold it up.
There you go.
Well,
Let's
right
see.
there. There you go. There's her granddad, and I knew him, knew his team. In fact, he had teammates Red Mitchum and Francis
Yeah.
Red and Fred Monsioka and all those guys who he played with. So yeah, so good to see him and good to see you. I know he's proud of you. So thank you
so much.
Thank you so much, Allie. We'll talk to you. Let's talk again next week, okay? Will you?
All right.
That'd be
Sounds
great.
good.
Thank you. Bye bye. Boy, she's good. She is really good. Brightens your day and knows a little something about the game. And well, speaking
knows a
about
lot. Knows a lot about it. She's always been. She's kind of a football savant in many ways. She just picks up stuff and it clicks for her. Not everybody's like that.
Yeah, I think she's great. Well, we lost a guy today. You didn't know him that well. I did. Fred Pancoast.
Yeah.
91. Coach Spurrier called me right before I went on the air and was talking about a bunch of stuff. Before I forget about it, he was just in Washington, he said. I might have him on later in a week or next week. And the Washington Touchdown Club gave him an award for outstanding contributions to football. And it happened to be the same day that Dan Snyder sold the team. How's that for timing, right?
That is.
And he said that he visited up there, and we talked a little bit about the offense. And France, I think it's precedes even you, that when Spurrier came in, with Coach Graves, his offensive was actually quarterback coach, then offensive career was Fred Pancoast.
Yeah,
Ed Kinsler, and then it transferred over to they coached together. And I asked Steve what he learned, because what Freddie did, I'll tell you something not many people know. He got the passing game from Florida State. That's where he got it from. And, and brought it in. They started throwing the ball. Steve said it wasn't very sophisticated, whatever. But John Reeves, of course, was his prize recruit. And Fred was had big time part in that. So, but
back in those days, Bill Peterson, Jim Nyblack, and Perry Moss would get in a car and drive across the country. Sometimes they get all the way to California because they were enamored with Don Coryell.
Exactly right.
And what he was doing out there, and then they'd come back and they'd stop at places along the way, and learn, and they would learn something brand new every year with the passing game. And if you recall, Peterson transformed when he got Steve Tensey. Steve Tensey was a 6'7" string bean of a quarterback, and he had this guy named Freddie Bolitnikoff, out of Erie, Pennsylvania, who he had recruited as a defensive back, but a guy could catch the football. and Fred Biletnikoff, Tennessee to Biletnikoff, became the All-American combination. Steve Tennessee never did a whole lot in the pros, although he did start for the Denver Broncos for a while. And the guy that really made it, of course, was Freddie Biletnikoff, whose brother Bobby was a quarterback at Miami.
Yeah, good memories. And by the way, how that all came about was that Florida lost the first time to FSU. It was Spurrier's sophomore year. Couldn't play as a freshman. Tommy Shem was the starting quarterback. And Tommy started the first half, and Steve started the second. A lot of people thought that he could beat Shannon out. Steve said, no, we had agreed before the game I'd play the second half. He played the first. But the touchdown pass he threw to Biletnikoff, we never heard of Biletnikoff. We're all scrambling to find his name on the deal. It was that Bobby threw Alan Trammell's head. Spurrier likes to joke, well, Alan didn't think he could throw it that far. Well, guess what? He could. And Florida lost that game 16-7. They lost that game. It was a dark day for Gator fans to lose to FSU back in those days.
Yeah, it was amazing because Bill Peterson went from an absolute midget at quarterback and Eddie Feely, who was listed at 5'7", and that may have been a stretch to say 5'7". He's more like about 5'6". And then next year he goes to Tennessee, who's 6'7". So, I mean, it was the long and the short of it. But, yeah, Pancoast learned it from Coach Pete and Nyblack and Perry Moss, just all ate it up. And, you know, my goodness, you know, you think about the stuff that those were good years. I mean, those were good times. I mean, I know how the game has evolved since then, how more sophisticated it is. Spurrier's right. I mean, this level of sophistication in the passing game, etc., now is so much more. But the fundamentals are the same because Coryell learned it from Sid Gilman. And Sid Gilman taught it to Coryell.
He was a guru. Sid Gilman.
And Sid Gilman,
okay, right.
Sid Gilman influenced the 49ers, who had John Brody, and Spurrier played.
And Walsh.
Yep. And Bill Walsh was there. So,
yep, that was it. Well, let's go to the Orange and Blue game. We were there together. We went to I want to say it was nice meeting the folks from Florida Victorious. Nate Barbero, the CEO, was there. We're going to have him on the program tomorrow and meeting up. And we saw a couple of basketball players that weren't too bad. Riley Kugel and who was the other player was there?
Will Richard.
Richards, yeah. There along with a couple of track guys, Jack Rowland, a great guy. And we got to see our friend Jen, who worked for Gator Collective prior to that. And
we saw the great Jasmine Moore, who was there,
Moore, right.
who has never lost an NCAA jump. She has won indoors, outdoors. She is. When I say the great Jasmine Moore, I mean the great Jasmine Moore. She truly is.
I think we got our picture made with her, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So, but you know, I heard a lot of reports today on Feinbaum on the quarterback situation. Everybody's talking about quarterbacks. I did the show with Rob Brown, which you do quite often on Saturday, talking about how you're going to protect everybody, you know, all your players now because it's open season. And I wanted to talk about Ole Miss's quarterbacks. They got Jackson Dart, Spencer Sanders, who's a transfer of Oklahoma State, and Walker Howard. All three of them. Now, how are you going to keep three guys like that happy? I was talking to one of the guys on the show who was, in fact, from Ole Miss. He thinks they can keep them all three. But do you think now we see these games, spring games, and a bunch of them this past weekend, and the portal's open, it's open season, how much do you think we'll see of people switching back and forth?
Oh, I think there will be a good bit of activity in the portal. If anybody can keep three quarterbacks happy, though, it's Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin has that kind of personality, and he's got it going there offensively at Ole Miss. And I think a lot of guys are going to figure that you know, I can stay here and I can be well prepared for the next level. He's really that good. Maybe the best pure quarterback coach this side of the Mississippi. I know on the other side you got that fellow Lincoln Riley who's done pretty well for himself out there in Southern Cal.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I think most people he's been around a little bit, done pretty well, but I think east of the Mississippi you'd have to almost say that Lane Kiffin is the guru. I know Ryan Day has had a pretty good run there at Ohio State, but I wonder if no offense to Ryan, but I kind of wonder if his is just a case of great recruiting and not so much a case of great development. I just have to wonder about that because you look at what Lincoln Riley did, though. Lincoln Riley took Baker Mayfield, who was a reject from everybody, who walked on there at Oklahoma, makes a Heisman Trophy winner out of him, takes Kyler Murray, makes a Heisman Trophy winner out of him, and he left Texas A&M because they said he couldn't play. And then he takes Jalen Hurts, who left Alabama, and he turns him into a guy that just got a $255 million contract. Yeah. And then he goes out there to Southern Cal, and he takes Caleb Williams. I mean, this is a guy that's really got it going. Lane has not had that kind of a record, but you look at him. He won a national championship with Jake Coker. He won, and Jake Coker was a rejected at FSU. They said, they laughed and said that, oh boy, we got rid of him. He's dead weight. And Lane wins the national championship with him at Alabama. And then Lane is the guy that coached Jalen Hurts originally. And he was the guy that recruited Mac Jones. Lane's got a pretty good record there.
But
so
still,
I think if anybody can keep him happy, he's the guy.
Can't keep three wives. You can't keep three quarterbacks. I'm sorry. No, I can't keep them happy. We'll see how this. Let's do this. I want to get you on the basketball thing, but first I want to show you something. I grew this, friends. This means this is coming to you soon. These are fresh in the. Well, if I can get them to go in it. Hold on a second. I've been working. Look at that. Look at those luscious greens, man. Is that great or what? Huh? Those are brand new, man.
Well, buddy, you are Mr. Health now.
I'm telling you what. Well, yes, I am, and I'm proud of those. Those look great. I hadn't even had it myself. I'm saving the harvest till you can come have dinner back for your road trip and check it out. This is what they look like growing in the tower, and I'm doing a lousy job of telling people about these things, but you can get a tower. Go to Buddy's. Did I get it right? Buddy'sTower.com, I think it is, and it'll tell you how to order one, and you can get it, and then you can have your own food. Then you can, in turn, if you want to sell them, you can also do the same thing. I've had mine now for 5 or 6 months. The greens are fabulous. I love picking them off, put them in there, right in the salads. And you know what they say about farm to table? It's great. And this is what we can do with it. And you get some of that real good organic beef, lean beef, and you cook it up and you do this, friends. And there's your dinner right there.
Farmer Buddy Martin.
You got it, man. So that's what we do. If you have any questions, DM me. I know that Ben Troop's mom was getting one. So, yeah, check it out. It's, I think the address is BuddyTower.com, I believe. If not, I'll correct you. I keep getting it wrong. Sorry. Would help if I knew the right address. There you have it. All right, Francis, let's talk basketball. And what a week now the program has had. I think this team is shaping up fast. Todd Golden's got Micah Handlogton. You got 6'10" Tyrese Samuel, 6'8" EJ Jarvis, and now 6'10" Alex Condren, and 6'9" Thomas Hoff. Man, they got some height all of a sudden.
Well, he's got size. I think last year was a learning experience for him. You know the old saying, you don't take a knife to a gunfight. And last year he tried to play in the SEC with without enough size, and I learned his lesson. He had one big guy who could play, and that was it. And he surrounded him with a bunch of smaller guys. Now he's going to go into SEC play with the big guys, and if you have big guys like this, buddy, you can bring, you it's a pick your poison. Do you drop back and you pack the paint and try to stop the big guys? If you cover the perimeter, you leave the big guys one on one, and I think that Todd's got a great situation here. He's got Walter Clayton too coming in, the point guard from Iona.
Walter Clayton, yeah, he's not talking about height, but no, you're right.
He's 6'2", he's 195, a big, strong kid who can get to the rack. But here's the thing. He shot 43.1% from 3 points. You get a guy like that in the middle with a couple of guys on the wings like Kugel and Richard. And by the way, did you see that picture Chris Spears got? Riley Kugel supposedly only 6'5". Will Richard is a legit 6'4". Riley Kugel is like this much taller.
Like he's about 6'7", isn't he?
6'6", 6'7", and still growing. Billy Donovan once told me, sitting there at Peach Jam, he said, when a kid can grow a full beard, he ain't going to grow any taller. Riley Kugel still got fuzz on his face. He's still growing. He may end up being a 6'8", kind of kid who can actually play the point too in the NBA. But you got shooters on the wing. You got a shooter in the middle of the perimeter, and then you got the big guys. And Jarvis, by the way, is a very fine 3-point shooter as well. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Got 3 scholarships available. I'll be interested to see what he does with those 3. I think he needs another point guard. I think you got to have another shooter, and he may get another big guy because he's got one other big guy that he's really, really pursued. So could be, this revamped roster is going to look very, very tall. No more vertical challenges this year.
I hate to turn this into something ethereal, but in the end, the stars have got to line up right. It's been a rough couple of years for Florida. The whole Mullen crash and burn, and getting a new coach, not winning again back-to-back 6-7 years, and it hurts. And you like to think there's better things ahead. Then you throw in all the things that happened, including the Jalen Rashada deal, the whole thing trying to find your sea legs with that and the money. It's been rough. But I went to an event, and you were there. This guy was here, and we got a chance to talk to him. And he is the guy who will lead this organization, Florida Victorious. You see him right there. I got one of the hats, which I didn't get, by the way. I think I'll have to give it to Chris Spears. And talk today. He's going to be on the show tomorrow. Based on what you know, now I know people think we're sunshine puffers or whatever, think what you want to. Based on what you know, given what we're situation here, we know the football program is in limbo. We'll see what happens. The good recruiting we have in basketball. Baseball team now, what a great win over Georgia after losing the opener. The gymnastics team barely missing a national championship. And on and on and on. We could go with the track team and the tennis team and so on and so on. So many great things happening. Now, Florida Victorious has lined up with this billionaire from Miami who's got the money, and he's been very successful. And his new CEO is Nate Barbera. You met him on Saturday, as did I, at the tailgate. What's your vibe?
I like what they're intending to do, and I like the fact that they're very, very well organized. I think a lot of people went into NIL with great intentions, buddy, but without great plans. And I think a lot of people we've seen a lot of these collectives and big money guys crash and burn in NIL. And I think it's because nobody knew exactly what to do or how to do it. And everybody kind of rushed into it without a real plan of how to do it. And I think Florida Victorious has taken a couple of years, looked at what's going on, and come up with a plan to make it work. I'm convinced that if you got the money and you got a plan, you can get it done. And these guys, from everything that I've seen, they're very well organized. They've got a plan. They've put it down on paper. They've got the people to implement it, and they're moving forward with it. We'll see. It still comes down to, do you have the dollars to pay? Because I know a lot of people hate to hear this, but we've entered a new era of college sports, and it is going to be about who's got the money. If you got the money, you got a chance. If you don't have the money, you have no chance. And I hate to say that. I really do. But it's kind of like the NCAA held on to this Boy Scout model. And, as when we were growing up, buddy, the Boy Scouts were a big deal. We'd go to school, Boy Scouts would wear their uniform to school once a week, and Cub Scouts and everything like that. That's when we were growing up and going to school. You don't see that anymore. The Boy Scout, I think the Scouts are still a great organization, but they don't have the prestige they used to have. And I think that this model that the NCAA had was kind of like the Boy Scouts, and it just doesn't exist anymore in the same capacity. And the collectives and these things, NIL, you got to be able to move forward, and you got to have the money, and you got to have a plan to make it work. And I think these guys have got that.
Well said. We'll go out with this note. You like to take on the zebras and the umpires and whatever. I'm a guy that doesn't say much. Let's say that's the way it breaks. But I saw something Saturday that made my blood boil, and you saw it too. You wrote about it, and you described it beautifully. To go back in time and Saturday, on Sunday game when Florida was trying to win a series, they couldn't get their bullpen straightened out. They finally got their ace. What was his name? The reliever in the game. I'm drawing a blank.
They got Brandon Neely
in the game. And they got a couple men on base, and maybe Georgia's about to rally again because they had done Friday night, had a grand slam, as you know, and beat them. So you're getting nervous. You got Neely out there on the mound. He didn't have a good outing last time. He really wanted that batter. He goes out on the mound. He strikes the guy out and simply looks at the dugout. Doesn't go toward it. Doesn't make any hand gestures. Stomps his foot and yells and so happy he did it. As he's walking off the field, the umpire threw him out of the game. I couldn't believe it. And I'm not for showing up umpires, but I got to tell you, I love what Jack Caglione did when he hit the second home run of the game. He ran the bases, came in, and walked through the line, as you described it, like a robot, and didn't show any emotions. It was hilarious. It was sure disrespectful. He could have gotten in trouble for it, but I loved it. I don't care. It was outside the rules a little bit. I don't know. I just thought it was great. That's me.
Here's the thing that really gets to me about this, and this is why Brian DeBrawware, who is the home plate umpire, who had been challenged on at least 6 or 7 calls, it seems, all weekend. When he got challenged by both sides when he was calling the game on the bases on Friday night and Saturday night. He had a terrible series. He's a bad umpire, for one thing. Jeff Cardozo, I understand, was just about going ballistic over some of these calls. And Jeff's radio booth really has a great view of home plate. And I know for a fact that Georgia people were incensed by the home plate umpire as well. They thought he was terrible. And here's the thing: there was so much woofing going on in the Georgia dugout. I do not blame Brandon Neely for taking a look over there and kind of saying, okay, I struck your guy out. He didn't say a word. I know somebody in the press box said, if he grabbed his crotch when he looked over there, that might have been something to do. But he never did that. All he did was he looked over there, kind of went, yeah, I got your guy, then looks at the Florida dugout and pumps his fist like this, stomps his foot, pumps his fist, and he gets tossed for that, which is absolutely, it's unconscionable that an umpire would do that. But in the bottom of the inning, what that did was that lit a fire under the Gators. They get a couple guys on. Michael Robertson then singles through the shortstop third base hole to drive in a run, and then up comes then they hit Langford with a pitch, and up comes Caglione, and it's 1-2, and he's sitting on a breaking pitch, and didn't really get the breaking pitch, but he gets, if it was a breaking pitch, it didn't break.
High.
And the ball's up in the zone, and he hits it opposite field. Now he's a dead pull hitter. They've got the shift on. They've got their third baseman playing on. You remember back in the days of church league softball, and instead of playing four outfielders, you'd have a guy that would rotate, and he'd play in the. They call him the short fielders, or what they call them. Well, this is kind of what their third baseman is doing. They're playing him for a dead pull, and what do you know? He goes opposite field, clears the fence by a good 25, 30 feet, and no doubt about it, he knew it was gone the moment he hit it, and comes around third base, and he just stares at the umpire. Doesn't say a word, just stares. Robotic look on his face. I mean, it's like, it's a stare, but, there's no emotion to it. So the umpire can't toss him for that. You can stare down an umpire all day long. As long as there's no emotion on your face, if he kind of like any kind of gesture, like, ha, 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 look what I did, instead, and then there's a double line of players, and it's like hands down like this, and he's walking. It's like one of those Disney movies with the, I forget which, the Tinker Toys or whatever they are that they do. And I'm telling you, it was absolutely quite a sight to see.
It was a moment. It was. Yeah. Good job on your coverage too, France. You can read France along with the rest of us if you go to GatorBaitMedia.com and find out what we're talking about. It's good stuff. Nobody has more. My friend Jen said, boy, you guys turned out some copy. Does Fran's Beard ever sleep? We said, no, we don't let him sleep. Anyway, friends, thank you. Good job, buddy. As always, the Iron Duke. He'll be back on Thursday. And have a safe trip, and I'll have your greens ready, all right?
Thanks a bunch.
All right, France Beard, as he comes to us every Monday and Wednesday. Excuse me, Monday and Thursday. Here on the program, I want to tell you about our friends that make this possible. In addition to the sponsors that we have on Meldon Law Monday, of course, you know about Meldon Law, and also our friends at Titan MRI, our good friends at Medical Renstar. Renstar, I get it right. I've only done it 1,000 times. Renstar Medical Research are making this possible. Been supportive of this program for a long time. We are eternally grateful. We do appreciate it. And of course, they know they've got a patient-centered clinical research facility second to none here in Ocala with cutting-edge clinical research trials in areas like Alzheimer's and psoriasis, osteoarthritis, many other things that affect our community. They ask you if you want to be a part of these. You can come in and see if you qualify. And if so, you might be eligible for time and travel. They do these clinical trials regularly on a variety of things, and they continue to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. So if you're interested in being a part of it, go to Renstar.net, check them out. You can participate in those, and thank them for sponsoring this show. We do appreciate it. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. We've enjoyed the show tonight. Good to have Allie on, Dan Bond, Shane Matthews, and of course Franz Beard. Back tomorrow night with Nate Barbera, the CEO of Florida Victorious, and our friends David Whitley will be here. So join us tomorrow night on the Buddy Martin Show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.